it that I can send a WhatsApp message in a second, fly to London in a matter of hours, but when I have to make a wire, a bank wire, that has to cross a border, it takes days and I lose significant chunk in fees. I'm Arnaud Salomon, CEO of SMEX. And SMEX is a tech holding company where we create banking and financial products and services. And yet, we make them simple, transparent, and efficient. These core values are reflected in the two operating companies that SMEX owns. EBEN, which is a transfer app, where the bottom line is slightly different than TransferWise because we concentrate on the beneficiary himself. We allocate proxy IBAN to him so that you can reuse this proxy local IBAN to send international wire anytime. And we're now working on a very ambitious project called Mt Pelerin, which aims at becoming the bank of today. I'm going to explain you later, but it's going to be amazing. So we'll start with explaining a little bit more what is EBEN. EBEN is truly revolutionizing the way we're going to do cross-border transfer in Switzerland and abroad. The basic idea is very simple. We don't want you to change your setup. We want you to keep using your bank just like the way you've been always using it, but do not give them the currency exchange anymore. Give it to us. The way it works is that you sign up with us in 8 minutes through an online onboarding app where you just have to take a picture of your passport. We have a 2-minute video chat with you. We attribute to you limits. And then what happens is that you will say, I have an international beneficiary. You would just say his international IBAN or account number, and we would generate a Swiss local proxy IBAN for this beneficiary where you can send Swiss franc, and we would do the currency conversion and deliver the money on the other side the same day, obviously at a fraction of the cost banks usually charge. On average, 5 to 10 times cheaper. We're not talking 5 to 10%, but 5 to 10 times cheaper. EBEN is truly revolutionizing because it's so simple. The only thing it does is currency exchange and transfer, but again, the bottom line is not the transfer itself, but it's the beneficiary. So EBEN is a transfer app. And the way it works is slightly different from the very well-known TransferWise competitor. So our goal is to make a Swiss transfer and exchange app where basically the bottom line is slightly different because we are not looking at the transfer itself, but at the beneficiary. With us, you sign up in the app in 8 minutes maximum. You just have to take a picture of your passport, we scan it for you, we fill up everything, and then you have a 2 minutes interview chat within the app with an operator from us, and you get an account open. Now you can, of course, fill up your beneficiary. And what happens is that we will allocate a Swiss local proxy IBAN for this international beneficiary. And now, every time you want to make a transfer, an international transfer that is usually quite costly with your bank because in general you don't even know how much you're going to pay for this transfer up until the money has left your account, right? Here the idea is that when you send money to this local proxy IBAN from us, you will get a price instantaneously. If you accept, we make the currency exchange at a fraction of the traditional bank cost, and we deliver the money on the other side the same day. So let's start with EBEN. EBEN is a very simple currency exchange and transfer app. But the way we do it is slightly different from the main competitors that everybody knows, TransferWise. TransferWise, they mainly concentrate on the transfer itself, meaning that every time you want to use it, you need to log in and specify your transfer. They will attribute to you a code, a reference code that you put in the reference field of your wire, and they will take care of the currency exchange for you. Now, with EBEN, the bottom line is the beneficiary. And the idea is that you just input your beneficiary, and we generate a Swiss local proxy IBAN for any beneficiary, any international beneficiary. Now, in the future, when you will want to send money internationally, you will not give this task to your bank anymore. You will make a local wire in Switzerland that settles in half an hour. As soon as we receive the money, you get a price on the app. If you accept it, it gets converted and delivered on the other side within 4 hours. Here, we're slashing the price by 5 to 10 times. Not 5 to 10%, but 5 to 10 times cheaper than the traditional bank cost. So originally, SMEX has been working since 2.5 years on a very ambitious project, which is called Mt Pelerin. This is still a project, but it's becoming more and more real. And why is this bank going to be so special as compared to the way we bank today? 3 aspects: full reserve, marketplace, and tokenized. Let me explain quickly. Full reserve, I guess everybody understands. It means that with us, your money is going to be safe. We're never going to gamble your money. We're never going to loan it out to someone else, and we're never going to expand the balance sheets with an SNB loan. So, your money will remain your money no matter what. And if 100% of the clients want their money back at the same time, we will be able to deliver it. So, how do we make money if we refuse this privilege to make on-balance sheet loans? Well, we organize marketplaces where we basically offer most banking services in the form of marketplace. Let me give you 2 examples. For example, currency exchange. Today, within your bank, if you want to make a wire, you will not know how much you're going to pay for this transfer up until the money has left your account. On our side, we decided to reverse this and do a paradigm shift. We offer marketplaces, and especially, for example, on the euro-dollar, you want to exchange. The way it works is that you can propose a currency exchange to someone else, or you can match the best available proposition. And by organizing it in such a way, you bypass the middleman, and by matching opposite needs, you get the best rate. Of course, we have the chicken and egg problem here, so we've solved it by having a robot that is able to bring a bid and an ask price on each and every currency pair, and that is executing it back to back with a broker, actually the same as TransferWise plus some others in Switzerland, meaning that we already have the tightest spread ever on the currency exchange, but it's always free and open for anyone to propose better than we do and get matched by someone else. So this concept here is replicated towards the loan concept, right? So a loan, you don't care if your loan is provided by Bank of America or Lending Club. What you care is that all your criteria are matched and you get the best deal out of it. And on the marketplace, it's exactly that. On top, you will always have the best deal, but if you're not happy with what you've been proposed, you can create your own and let the crowd subscribe into it. So that's the way we organize basically the basic banking services. Of course, on top of it, we offer 30 different currencies, 30 different dedicated accounts where we format the IBANs in such a way that it's understandable. So it's always finished with EUR if it's a Euro account, CHF if it's a Swiss franc account, etc., etc. And of course, we also offer cryptos, meaning that you will have IBANs dedicated to Bitcoin and IBANs dedicated to Ether that ends up with BTC and ETH. We offer, of course, the master IBAN, which allows you to connect any type of currency and get the right allocation. Now, with this concept of marketplace, we go one step further. And I guess this is the most important and crucial aspect of Mt Pelerin. We want to tokenize the entire bank. This is a very bold ambition because today, most of the people, they tokenize the liability part of the balance sheet, meaning they take the euro deposit, the Swiss franc deposit, and they want to put it on chain as, let's say, well, as we call it, ERC20 tokens, which is the standard to issue blockchain tokens. And it's great. Still, you have compliance problems. On our side, the way we solved it is that we created a compliance oracle on top that is able to supervise our network, to attribute limits to each and every Ethereum address, and to determine if they are allowed to transact on our application network. Now, again, as I said, we want to go one step further because we're not going to only tokenize the liability part of the balance sheet, but also the asset part of the bank balance sheet. And this is very important because most banking assets are contracts. And the way we look at it, it's easy to make them smart contracts. So what's the point? So if we take back the example of loan, you will understand that when you make a loan with UBS, your contractual relationship is with the bank itself, with UBS. Now, if UBS sells it to Credit Suisse or make it an asset-backed security and sells it on the market, they still have to do the circle, simply because the contract relationship is between you and UBS. If we replace that with a smart contract, the owner of this smart contract can change, and you as a customer, you do not care. You will be paying back every month the smart contract itself. So on day one, UBS can sell it to Credit Suisse that can securitize it in an asset-backed security, and then it can even be the crowd, the owner of these assets. And that's the beauty of it, because by tokenizing those assets, we make them liquid. So when you think about it today, you have crowd lending platforms, but the drawback with that is that you're locked in such a contract with the counterparty up until the deals mature. Right here, when you have a token that representing this asset, it's fully liquid. On the second day, you have a secondary market where you can basically resell your investment. Anytime you need the money, you can cash out. And this is really the way Mt Pelerin is going to go forward. On top of offering all the traditional payment systems where we try to modernize it in the same way as the UK fintech, offering simple things such as a single MasterCard where you can debit any currency. Instead of having 20 different cards for 20 different currencies, you would have only a single one. And every time you are, let's say, in London and you do not have pound on your account, we will trigger ourselves on the marketplace a currency exchange at a fraction of the traditional Visa and MasterCard cost.
We talked a little bit earlier about some of the regulatory challenges. Maybe you could spend a minute and talk about the pros and cons of being based in Switzerland for a business like this. Yeah. What are some of the advantages and a couple of the drawbacks that you've seen?
Yeah. So Switzerland is obviously a marvelous place in terms of reputation. The regulatory environment is quite clear, so this is something very that most startups appreciate. Now the drawback here is they're very different in their approach from the way the EU is regulating fintechs. So here, as long as you do not take deposit from the public, or at least not for more than 60 days, it's quite easy to get regulated and it's quite straightforward in its nature. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have a business that requires to take deposit from the public, this is when you will enter a bit more trouble, because Switzerland does not differentiate when you take customers' deposit on balance sheet or off balance sheet. As soon as you take customers' deposit, you have to take it on your own balance sheet, and therefore it's a risk for the customer that you are basically running away with the money or doing stupid things with the money, etc., etc. In the EU, they have this payment institution license that allows you to take people's deposits, but it's not part of the company's balance sheet. And you have to deposit with a Class A bank, and because it's not part of your balance sheet, if you go bankrupt, people's money remain people's money, so it's super safe for them. That's why you can have this payment institution license in the EU with only 125,000 capital requirement. So it's a very low barrier entry to access this marvelous world of fintech. In Switzerland, again, if you take deposits, you will need a banking license. And this is a massive entry barrier, especially considering that it's not only about the money, but it's also about the staff, the scale of the size of the team, the competencies that you need to have, etc., etc.
Interesting, because I think there's no easy answer to that. It's really posing questions about how regulation works in Switzerland, and will there be a fundamental change in some of the options that have been available historically, and will it adapt to the new future? Maybe to avoid getting into controversial waters or into problems we can't solve and look at something else, it seems like FINMA has actually been pretty open-minded and quite flexible around the whole blockchain space, and especially around the big craze of ICOs this year. That's something I'm sure you've been following, and wonder if you have any thoughts about ICOs in general in Switzerland, and more specifically what it takes to be successful at going through an ICO.
So I would say the FINMA today was not welcoming every ICO, but they were on a wait and see mode, which is a very good approach. They looked, they identified, they learned, and this is very good. But now we will see the second phase, which is FINMA action, because now they've learned, now they understand, now they can clearly differentiate the honest project from the scammers. They can clearly differentiate what has been correctly set up from what has been badly set up. Just to give you one example, we talk a lot about foundations. And foundations, they do make sense for projects such as Ethereum, because it's a public project, right? It's open source, it has a mandate for the full public, and you're creating a new blockchain. Mm-hmm. Now today you see a lot of private companies creating a foundation on top to raise the money, and this is for me a way to evade tax, that where this foundation, the only purpose it has is to finance a commercial company. So that creates a kind of let's say, parallel routes, right? And foundations were not meant to be used like this. And at some point it will create some issues, because again, when you sell a token that is a utility token, you should pay some tax out of it. You should pay maybe VAT if you're pre-selling something. You should, if it's even a donation, you have a tax on donation, etc., which foundations do not have. So for me, it looks like a way to evade tax and not really an efficient vehicle for ICOs. And this is, I might believe that today FINMA will put some orders into this thing and will edict like, okay, you want to have a project that will change the world, that will be open source, you can go down the foundation route, otherwise you will have to go down this proper regulated security way.
Maybe to boil it down to a really simple comment, if you were an entrepreneur like yourself thinking about doing an ICO, would there be one or two reality checks you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, the very first thing is before doing an ICO, make sure your business model is blockchain centric. Okay. If you are just looking at raising money through an ICO, you might not end up that successful. Again, this community is really attentive to the fact that you're bringing something for this decentralized community.
What would be any final words that you have for potential investors or clients of SMEX?
So as I told you, we have EBEN that is up and running right now. We're still in the beta phase, but we plan on opening it up to the rest of the public in January. Again, this will be a very game changer in the landscape of cross-border transfer. And this will allow us to prove to the FINMA that we know how to deal with KYC, with AML, with increased risk clients, etc., high-risk clients, etc. So by this, it will help our banking license for Mt Pelerin that we are working very hard right now with one of the big four. And we are planning, of course, for Mt Pelerin where we have great tech, we have great team. The only thing we're missing right now in order to go forward is the capital requirement edicted by the FINMA, which is 20 million for the capital of the bank and 7 million on top as a operational running cost that we need to provision for the next 3 years. So this is the minimum we need to raise in order to create this incredible project. So today, this is the message I want to give, I want to convey. If you are interested in changing the world of the banks, invest in our ICO.